Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. Today we've got Liz Hardwick with us, and Mary's going to tell you just a little bit about Liz.
Hi Liz, great to have you here today. Where we met about a year ago. We think it's probably about a year, and you've spoken at our conference in Liverpool. You've spoken at our events in Leeds and Liverpool, and you're back today to do a digital recording. And what are you going to talk about today?
So today I thought with the sort of the massive push within remote working recently, how to use some digital tools and technologies around supporting remote working teams. So when I say teams, it might be your team, but it also might be a team that you're part of as well.
Okay, that sounds really good, and especially now working from home's the norm. A lot of people doing that or working in the office but with a very small team, so still working remotely with their colleagues. So we thought that's a really good topic to talk about today. So how's it been for you? I presume you're used to working from home as well, but used to doing live events like us, so it's all changed.
Yeah, definitely. Well, traditionally, DigiEnable's been a face-to-face only training company. So actually, come March 2020, it was a big change for us, actually. So yeah, Zoom is very much the thing that we use now to do a lot of our training. We found that there was a real interest in one-to-one training as well. So actually people just getting one-on-one training on specific topics and skills that they felt that they really needed to bolster with, like, right now. So yeah, hopefully people are using digital in ways it's intended now, I guess. And I think there's something out there that says actually we've kind of kick-started the digital side of things 10 years into the future. So now hopefully people will be using digital as a tool a lot more than maybe face to face. I don't think will ever go away. I think there's absolute benefit to seeing people and coming together, but digital can be a supplementary sort of add-on to that as well, just like you guys are doing with these series of digital versions of events and workshops. I think it becomes just something that you have extra added value on top of the face-to-face. When you do get together, then you feel like you've connected more in the downtime digital as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely accelerated as into the future. It took some time, but we're kind of getting there now with digital. And I think everybody else, and just getting recordings like this from our trainers is vital for the PAs to learn about working from home and the apps that they can use, and the productivity helps with everything.
Yeah, Liz has, of course, you have a number of different topics that you train on. I remember when you spoke for us in Leeds and Liverpool, how to get your inbox down. Tell you what, it worked for me.
Yes, brilliant. Well, yeah, now we have an online e-learning module as well around Zen for Inbox. I think very much as people were doing a lot more working from home and juggling lots of responsibilities that maybe extra caring responsibilities and maybe you would be homeschooling and things like that. I think inboxes have a way of really just quickly filling up, and being able to kind of get back on top of them and set yourself up for a system in future can be really helpful as well.
Yeah, it was a big help for me, and I'm sure for the others that attended as well. Yeah. So today, you're going to tell us a little bit about what you're talking about today?
Yeah, sure. So we're going to really drill down into working remote teams wise. So I'm going to share with you some calendar apps, and then also some project management tools and some ways of kind of being a bit more creative in terms of getting ideas and conversations going within teams. Because I think sometimes with digital, we can run the risk of it always being, just let's write up some notes in a Word document. And especially for visual people, that can sometimes actually not be that helpful in terms of being, ideas generation stage. If you're thinking about, doing a new event or producing a new product and you're helping people with that process that you support, kind of offering alternative digital platforms to be able to focus on could be really helpful. And then also, calendars, very much like inboxes, haven't really changed, since the 90s when digital calendars and digital inboxes started. So using, a third-party app, not necessarily just the obvious Google Calendar or Outlook Calendar. There's lots more features available these days with some of the more modern platforms and apps for calendars. So especially if you're working for multiple clients or you're, supporting multiple people, it can soon get quite confusing to have loads of different calendars on the go. So definitely going to be, hopefully helping you with that one.
Fantastic.
That will be really useful.
Definitely for both of us.
Yeah. When you've got other clients as well with other calendars. So,
Marion will say to me, have you put something in my calendar? I'm thinking, have I?
That's it. And I think, there's so many ways that you can integrate with other systems as well. So especially if, your sort of clients or people you're supporting are using things like Zoom and MS Teams, there are, useful kind of ways of automatically adding those to calendars. It's not necessarily set up by default. So it's definitely a kind of streamlining process, really. So it saves you time in the long run.
Fantastic.
Great.
Well, with that, we'll move over to the recording now and learn some more things about the digital world. And we'll come back to you at the end, Liz. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this session on using apps to manage your remote working teams. This is specific for the PA Hub. So what I've tried to do is add some examples along the way, not only just for you as individuals, but also for those people that you might be supporting as well. Thanks to Marion and John for inviting me to do the session, and I hope you'll get lots of tips and tricks along the way as we go with the session today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go straight in. I'm going to share my slides and we're going to get going. So 3 main things that I wanted to share with you in this session is top calendar apps for managing multiple projects and people or people. It might be that you have multiple projects that you're supporting, or it might be that you're actually supporting multiple clients. So we'll look at those 2 examples as we go. Also 3 different types of project management processes. Now I appreciate there's a load of project management processes out there. So what I've tried to do today is pick 3 different processes and align those with 3 useful apps I think will be helpful for that particular process. So we'll go through those step by step for that one. And then also I wanted to share with you just some fun tools and apps that might be helpful for when you're working with your teams. And it's also a bit of a nudge back to the face-to-face era when we used to sit in real physical conference rooms and boardrooms and actually think about how we can use digital to still create that environment, but make it a little bit more fun in the process as well. So that's where we're going to go with the session. So who am I and why am I talking to you today? Well, my name's Liz Hardwick. I am a digital productivity specialist and global speaker, both face-to-face and virtual. I've been running a digital training company for nearly 10 years and I have a lot of hats. So for me, very much I'm coming at this project from multiple projects, multiple hats that I have. Not only do I run my own business and I speak for a living, but I also have a couple of boards that I sit on, a few charities that I support as well. So I've got lots of different things going on. So for me, it's very much about making sure that I'm keeping the eye on the ball of all those different projects at once. So the tools that I'm going to share with you today, some of the apps that I use myself, and hopefully you can either choose to pick those apps yourself or see the kind of the reasoning behind why I've picked what I've picked, and then use that sort of process and logic to pick in what might work for you and the people you support more. So that's where we're coming at for that today. I'm very much all about a 4-day working week and getting as much done in as short a time as possible. So that's what very much where the productivity side of things comes in. Within the digital remit, there is so much stuff going on at the moment and so much remote working. It's very much new for some people. So appreciate if you've always been a face-to-face person, this might be quite new to you. So kind of pick little bits and snippets as you go for your learning. And if you're already very much a remote worker, maybe you're a VA already, then these will hopefully kind of soup you up. There's some little top tips in there for you, alongside what's the next thing to do, what's the next app that's on the market that's going to change your world. Okay, so hopefully that's where you'll understand I'm coming from today. So one of my big things, and I'm sure that in the times that I've spent with some of you face-to-face in sessions before, we all love scheduling things. If it doesn't happen and it isn't in the schedule, it might not ever get done. So very much scheduling all the things is where we're going with this. So calendar apps, we are still kind of stuck in the 1990s, sadly. In the 1990s, for, you know, if anyone is old enough to remember the PDA, the personal digital assistant, which used to be like a little Palm Pilot thing, which was the first time I ever had a digital calendar, and it revolutionized the way that I worked. It didn't yet synchronize with anything, so it wasn't great for sharing with people, but very much it helped me actually think about how I want to schedule my time, and that definitely helped me move forwards with that. So what we're going to share now is a few apps, but then also the elements that you want to look at in terms of what apps you might choose, because absolutely there's loads of apps out there. It might be that you're already using something like Outlook or Google Calendar, and they are like the super basic level. They do have some extra functionality, but what we're really looking for in this section is actually thinking about what other apps are out there, what tools do they do that actually helps us get more done in less time. And especially if you're supporting multiple people or on multiple projects, how you can streamline some of those processes rather than going back and forwards a lot of the time to reissue certain appointments, for example, or how you actually want to get appointments booked in the very first place. So a couple of apps to start you off with. I personally use Business Calendar 2. Now, this used to be called Business Calendar Pro. It's by AppGenix, and that's the company. So if you struggle trying to find it, sadly, it only works on Android, though. So you do have to have an Android system set up. And it is very much the mobile device only. So this is very much for if you're on the go. But the reason why I really love this app is you can group calendars. Now, I can totally appreciate that you probably have loads and loads of calendars on the go at the same time. I do. I subscribe to certain calendars. I also have a minimum 7 calendars for me personally, just to say what types of work I'm doing. So they're all individual calendars in themselves. But I also bring in some of my team members as well, so I can see everyone's calendar within this app. Now, that can get really clunky because you have to keep switching calendars on and off when you just want to see your own view. The great thing about grouping calendars is you can say, okay, everyone else in my team or the clients that I support or client A, all of these calendars that maybe my chief exec is that I support, her 7 calendars, I can group into one calendar. And I can simply, at the bottom of the bar of the calendar, toggle on and off that set of calendars. So rather than having to switch on all of the different calendars every time and switch them all off again, we can just simply press one button by grouping them together. Now, this absolutely love. And this is what Google doesn't do very well. Outlook doesn't do very well. They're all very single click, whereas this grouping idea is really what I'd be looking for in your next level calendar app. So sadly that doesn't work on iOS, but there is a semi-equivalent that does the groupings. That's very much where I find the most useful element of the calendar apps is for me. And that one you would be looking for if you're on iOS is a fantastical. So check those two out for that. So we've mentioned the grouping of calendars, and that's a big thing for me. Also color coding. So for those of you who I've met before, very much a big thing for my productivity is color coding. And I know a lot of you are the same as well, especially if it's paper-based, for example, you might have different color coded pens for different reasons. If you're writing notes, you'll have different elements for different colors. So we're on board with that already. So that's great. So that would be one extra thing that I'm looking for. Sadly, calendars, yes, they have been around since the 1990s, and we've kind of got stuck in it to an extent. Calendar apps haven't really moved on that much. And if you are managing the calendars of other people on a regular basis, it can be really worth having a shop around for what app or what program is going to be best for you. Because it can be that if we're using a free resource, say like Google Calendar or the inbuilt Outlook calendar with your Microsoft 365 that you might already have as part of your IT suite, as part of the company that you work for, it's also a way of thinking, okay, how do I want to soup this up? What are the next level thinking for our calendar apps? So here's some kind of ideas of things that might be important to you and the people that you support. So thinking about video conferencing, everything in 2020 has very much been about video conferencing. I think 2021 is going to be no different. People are going to want to quickly make appointments and share links via things like Zoom or MS Teams or Blue Jeans. So have a look at what app calendars are out there and which ones might actually automatically support linking in and sending an invite with the appointment. So having a Zoom link as part of the appointment calendar schedule that's embedded into the link, say of the location or the notes section. There's an example here called Woven. This is free as a trial, but then you have to pay per month for it. But it is worth having a look because that one is actually doing all the sort of the embedded links, the grouping of calendars already. So if that's something that you've got some budget to spend on as part of your kind of your resources, your tools, that can definitely be worth having a look at. There are lots of them out there, so it is worth having a look at this list of functions that you want these applications and tools to have. And then you can have a bit more of a educated shop around. Oh, well, that doesn't actually do automatic Zoom scheduling, for example, and that might be a very quick way to dismiss some of the large numbers of calendar apps out there. Also templates. If you use templates a lot, you have lots of reoccurring appointments, you have lots of board meetings you have to schedule for on a regular basis. Does your program app or platform actually have any templated processes that you can save and click, okay, it's the board meeting, this is all the information, these are all the details, they're relatively the same all the time, and almost sort of does half of your work for you already, then you just have to tweak the details. Is it a reoccurring appointment and you want to add in different elements each time you have a reoccurring appointment? So have that flexibility to be able to share different sets of information within that calendar to different people. Do you want everyone to be able to see the invite list, for example? Google Calendar does this relatively okay, but these third-party platforms in future are actually starting to think about who is supposed to see what information and when. So that can be really helpful. If you only want, say, the board of directors to have all the information and just maybe your support team and their support team actually only have that as a view appointment only, rather than being able to edit it. Okay, so have a think about some of those. And for me, I absolutely love emojis. I use emojis at the start of my regular appointments so that I know what type of work I'm going to be doing. I'm very much into calendar blocking, about blocking times to do certain tasks. So if you're into that, that might be something to have a look at. For me, it was very much making sure that emoji support is part of that package. So making sure that I can do a little icon of a keyboard and make sure that that actually synchronizes across all my calendars. All of them that I've tested so far seem to do that. I think that's something that's just part of the digital world nowadays. But that would still be important for me as a tick box to making sure that that's something that as a feature that platform does. So also having to think about geo-linking locations. So as and when we go back to having more face-to-face appointments, are the people that you support actually driving around the country all the time? And is it really helpful that when it says location, it has a really clickable, easy link that opens up, say, a Google Maps? Most calendar applications do this now when you're looking at a smart device, but it's definitely worth checking that actually that's supported if you are going to invest it in a monthly recurring package with a calendar company. So hopefully that'll give you an idea of maybe creating your own list of needs so that when you go shopping around, you can see what your calendar's after. So next thing, now I'm sure most of you will be aware of these, but it's definitely worth mentioning at this point because some of these calendar applications that you will pay on a monthly basis for, so like the previous slide, are starting to embed some of these sorts of processes. So Doodle, which is very much a polling app to say, okay, when can everyone do Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday? Give them the ability to pop in their name and a tick box. Then you have the ability to pick the best optimum time. Now, what you'll find is some of the calendar platform apps are starting to do this as part of their inbuilt systems. So either go for a free app and choose some of these free resources, or actually think about integrating something like that into a calendar app program. There's also Calendly, where you can get people to book in appointments with you or the people you support. And Calendly is actually now supporting integration with Zoom. So when you're booking Calendly appointments, it might be that then you also want to say, okay, let's book it as a Zoom or an MS Teams. You can click the Zoom button and it will link your Zoom account and your Calendly account together. And then it will also embed into the calendar appointment you're sending to your invitee. It will also have the Zoom link already there embed into the section. So again, something that will really maximize your time if you're not already using that. And then for those of you who might be working for yourself and you need to track what time you're working on what particular client's work or project, Toggle can be a great one to do this. It's something that embeds into, say, your Google Chrome browser as an extension, or it is something that you can run as an app on your device. Tap in, tap out when you're doing starting and stopping a piece of work can be a really nice way of tracking your time. Just as a personal productivity tool, that can be really helpful as well, just to see where your time's going and what you're spending your time doing. So that can also be a nice little personal one as well. So next thing, let's talk about digital project management. So appreciate all of you will probably be working on different types of project management processes. So what I've tried to focus on here is what's useful to actually have a look at in terms of project management platforms. What sort of digital project elements are you looking for it to have? Is the elements really important to you, like milestones? Do you have to have pinpointed milestones for particular projects? Do you need to have the deliverables visible and there on maybe the top of the page? Long gone are the days where we just default to something like Microsoft Project, where we have Gantt charts for everything. There's lots of digital tools now that will still do similar things like Gantt charts, but can actually be much more resourceful and really kind of actually make it so that depending on what type of project management process you're using, you could use the same platform for multiple ones. So what I've tried to do with this session is just give you 3 different types of project management process and then an app that I think would be most suitable for that process. So again, bearing in mind what your needs will be, you might want to have a little list of resources or functions that you want to make sure that these platforms do. So that can be a good one to start off with. So the first one I wanted to look at, this is really good if you're working on multiple projects or you're supporting people working on multiple projects with a process around sprints. Now, this one has the different lines, and you'll notice right at the top, the blue sections have like a how long have you progressed through, so 1 of 7 or 1 of 10. So it's showing what items have been completed. You also can assign people to those tasks, so that can be useful again to share out the load or keep an eye on people's teams if you're the one just reporting on the usage or keeping up to date with the project tools yourselves. So this one's useful for Agile because Agile very much works in sprints and things might change as time goes on. The dates might move, the project might take a completely different turn. So very much it's being agile and working on your feet and changing things as and when. So generally you would have a sprint. And for that, I've really suggested the Hub Staff platform. This seems to work really well about assigning different tasks to different people. There is a freemium version, so you can use it for free. And I think you're limited to up to 5 staff before then you have to start paying. So if you think about the number of team members that you might want to work and log into a particular project, it also has an app as well, so you can check things on the go. So really good if you want that sprint format. Hubstaff also uses things like time tracking. It can do your payroll and link that in with you. You can also link invoicing, project budgeting, and also track staff time if that might be something that you and the people you support might be interested in. So that one's Hubstaff. So that's hubstaff.com. The second one I wanted to share with you is a more linear process. So this might be more fixed term projects, might be something that traditionally you would have used a project management tool like MS Project, for example. So normally the waterfall is a very linear process in terms of project management. It's got a fixed start and a fixed end time, and got a fixed sort of plan of action. And normally each task then waterfalls after each other. So you have one thing that you complete, then you have another thing to complete. So for this, very much it's all about tables, and this one's called Hardwick. So Hardwick.com, very much around the project management sphere. So this one again is very linear. So you have this, then this, then this. You have all of the different linked tasks together. So then it will say, okay, if this project has to shuffle by a week, what are the implications of all the other tasks that you can do? And that works out really easily. And table format is always really easy to export to something like a CSV file as well. This one also does time and budget management, but is a paid for service. So depending on what budgets you're working with, it might be something to have a look at. So that one's Hardwick.com. And then the third one, which I think probably most of us will be using, this is something that I definitely use as part of all the different projects I work on and in my business as well. And it's called Kanban. So there's 3 different columns within this traditionally. There's normally the needs doing, there's the doing, and there's the done. So we move things along the way as they've progressed. So it's very much a progression process. You might also add in some notes, or you'll see on this screen here, we've got requested. So it might be something that they're maybe thinking about. So an example, recruiting team requests. So what elements do we need to assign? What elements are going to be in progress and in review and completed? So you might have 3 different basic stages like that. So they've tweaked the title slightly, but normally it still is that sort of 3-column process. Also, Asana, you can still assign items to team members, and you can look at it in different views. So like calendar or list, or this one, which is the board function. This is the one that I use personally quite a lot. The kind of the negative, the sort of the con to the pros with this one is you do have to upgrade if you want the timeline option, which looks very similar to a Gantt chart style project management system. So if the Gantt chart one is definitely something that you're looking for, the Hardwick might be the better option for you in terms of the style and layout. But this one I really love. I think it's really nice, and it integrates with a lot of the other softwares that we use and we work with. So this one is still the one that I go for. I'm still on the free version, but it really helps me to just columnize things and move things across and then tick off when completed. With all of these ones, they come with an app, so you can download onto Android and or iOS. So those are the 2 tick box options for my teams to be able to work with. And also, I wouldn't want to share with you today any platforms that don't work on both devices. So I've given you those ones. They all work on all of those different systems, and also work as a web platform option as well. So you can type it into your browser if you're using a laptop or desktop computer. So that one for the Kanban method is Asana, and you can find that at asana.com. So next up, what I wanted to do is have a think about what time zaps are your teams currently finding within remote working? And one of the biggest things we find is emails. We get up to 200 emails a day, and that's per person per account. So appreciate if you're managing several people's inboxes, times that by however many inboxes you've got going, and that'll be a bit more of an average total of how many emails you're getting in a day. Now, for some of you, we've chatted before about productivity processes around email inbox, so I didn't want to go through that too much today, other than to say there are lots of remote working team tools out there. So, for example, if you haven't already noticed, Microsoft Teams has lots of columns and chat facilities. So it might be you want to set up a what they call channel, which is where a group of people can share files, chat to each other, communicate in private message, but also in group message as well. And that actually reduces a lot of that instant email communication that we find that we internally get a lot of. So if you think that some of these platforms might be better utilized for the quick communications, do you all just want to talk about one particular topic? Have you grouped some of the people that you work with and support into one channel to get them to chat to themselves, rather than each time everyone wants to ask a question or respond, they're all CCing each other in? So that actually helps reduce the number of emails across that number of people within that team, and actually makes that much more productive, because rather than taking that time and that lag for everyone to respond to that particular email, we can do this in one location instead. The great thing with all of these is these platforms also have apps for all of them for multiple platforms, iOS and Android, and web versions as well. So you can log on to your laptop that way as well. And I think that's really helpful to kind of separate the what is email used for? Is it for sending, emails that you don't expect a response from straight away? I think that instant communication that we seem to have sort of misunderstood emails to be, and actually move those conversations we want quick answers to, try and actually kind of get a process in place, or maybe an understanding, or even a policy, if you want to go as far as that, to say for these instant communications within this group, if we're going to chat about X, we're going to put it into the Slack channel. And within that, you've got an app attached to each platform. And then also people have the ability to switch on or off the notifications. So if you're assigned to, say, 10 different chat channels, and you don't actually need to have the notifications ping up every time one person chats within those groups, you can actually mute some of those channels, and then you decide as and when you want to go in and look at the content within that. So that can really help reduce a huge amount of those emails that we might already be using. So having a think about using those sorts of remote working team options instead of going for the obvious email platform. And then none of these sessions would be complete without a nudge towards inbox management and my new process, Zen for Inbox. I've been working on this for about 4 years now. And we've also got an e-learning module on our website as part of this now. And it really drills down into the modern communication form of email and really getting to grips with a new way of doing things so that we feel much more on top. I appreciate I'm probably preaching to the converted here, because you're all probably decent inbox ninjas already. So it might be that it's just a brush up on skills and a think about how you move forwards in 2021 with a process for your email inbox management. So thinking always back to when you open your emails, are you actually ready to engage with them? Is it something that you want to spend time now replying to those quick emails straight away? Anything that's going to take less than 5 minutes, doing it straight away, so we're not taking up more time procrastinating over whatever that particular task is. Are you doing what we are now calling inbox first pass? Are you skimming the inbox first? Is there anything super urgent that you need to action on or forward on to the people that you're supporting, or flag up in your morning meetings? Is there a first pass that you're doing first, and then processing as and when? So I know I've shared with some of you before my actions needed folder process. I think some of you have something similar, to discuss, to action, making sure they go out of the inbox into a specific folder that needs more than a 5-minute action or needs attention from someone else. And then a question over the notifications, have you got your notifications pinging on your phone all the time? Have you mentally already ignored your phone with its pings and its bops? So having to think about what your notifications are telling you and maybe switching off the ones that aren't as super urgent, and then maybe that will help reduce the kind of the brain fuzz of when those notifications come in. Up to 16 minutes it'll take you to refocus, even if you haven't looked at the phone. If you've been distracted by the buzz that's on the phone and we're on a laptop and we're looking at the phone here, then maybe actually, it's worth switching some of those notifications off if they're not super urgent that you reply to them straight away. And then within the email world, very similar to calendar management world, we're kind of still stuck in the 1990s. So I wanted to share with you an app today that again works on pretty much all platforms. It also works on Linux as well. And it's called Bluemail, and you can find it at bluemail.me. And this one has been really nice for me to have a play about with, actually. I've been using it for about a year now. It's free up to a point, and you can pay for a pro version if you need to. But what I found is the free version has been much more than enough for me. I have multiple email accounts coming into them, so you can manage everyone's email account if you're managing more than your own. But then the big thing I like about this is these two elements at the bottom. The first one is the people switch. So if you find that an inbox has got a lot of junk in it, you can filter down the emails and just have all of the emails that come from people, and you can assign them, you can add them to your address book, and so you can refine what people switch is. But I think that's really helpful, again, just in your first pass of your inbox, to switch that on to see, emails just from people to start off with. I appreciate most of you probably have filters as well going on, so most of it won't be in the inbox, but that can be a helpful way of very quickly filtering down some of those emails, especially if there's several hundred in that inbox every morning. And then also the reminders, the integrated calendars is starting to go that one step further and letting us actually say, okay, well, we want to schedule an email to go out later. So maybe you've read it at 10 o'clock at night and it wouldn't necessarily be appropriate to reply now, but you do want to write a reply, but don't want to hit send until the morning. So a great thing with Bluemail is it will enable you to snooze an email, so it will then remind you later on. You can choose how long that snooze is. So if you've started to write an email at 10 o'clock at night, you can snooze it and it will remind you in the morning as and when you're ready to send it. Very similar to the send later option that already is embedded into things like Outlook and Google Mail. But this is again giving you just that much more flexibility than we previously would have done in the sort of the native email applications. And then talking about sending later, I wanted to share with you a couple of apps that you might not have come across yet. And so there's one for Android and there's one for iOS. They do very similar things. The Android one is Do It Later, where you can schedule SMS text messages, auto reply text messages. You can reply to WhatsApps and emails. And also the later for iOS is the quick reminders to send things. It works with pretty much any chat or email application that you will have sat already on your phone. So you can then remind yourself to reply to that 10 p.m. email at 7 a.m. in the morning when you feel it's a more suitable time for them to receive it. And then actually it's much more likely to get opened if it's only just appeared early on in someone's inbox. Very similar to if you're deciding whether or not to send an email Friday night, if someone's going to have loads of emails come in over the weekend, is it better to actually send it first thing Monday morning so it's the first thing at the top of their list? So definitely check those out. I've been having a play about with those recently, and definitely the sort of reminders for the SMS and auto response has actually been useful personally as well. So check those ones out. So we've covered calendar management with multiple apps. We've also looked at project management with multiple apps and a few little tips around inbox management as well and reminders. I wanted to finish off this session by sharing with you some creative, fun tools that might be useful in your daily communications, or just to know that on occasion you might need to create something that's a little bit more standout than normal text and email might be. So my first one is canva.com. Now, I know a few of you already know this platform, but what's been really exciting most recently is that it's now got an Android and iOS app to it. You can also now download a desktop version onto your computer. So now it's less reliant on the internet, because then you can run it on your computer. You can create the visuals on your computer and offline if you choose, and then later on you can then synchronize it back to the internet, so you've got a storaged online version of your creations. Really great, really simple, still the leader in the market in terms of the right templates for the right social media platforms, or the right letterheads, or the right email signature sizes. It has a huge amount of templates in terms of free images that you can use for free, not having to pay. And even if you do choose to pay for certain things, normally they're around $1 or $2 per image. So actually really kind of sustainable cost-wise as well. So if you want a little funky image to stand out in a newsletter, or you just want to grab someone's attention digitally, their Canva platform is the one to go for. And if you're not necessarily au fait with things like Photoshop, this is more like a Word document processor. It's got a click and a drag and drop, and it's really intuitive. And I know you'll easily get to grips with that one. The next one I wanted to share with you is Millernote. Now, this is a really great way for remote teams to be able to collaborate together visually and digitally. Where you can have up to, for the free version, up to 3 boards. And this example here is a screenshot of a board. You can add in pictures, you can share links to things, you can copy and paste text, you can move things around the screen, you can say who's done what, you can get comments onto any of the other items that anyone else has shared. So you can have a really collaborative but visual effort. This might be a nudge back to the days when we would be meeting in person, where we might have big sheets of flip chart drawing ideas around the table. So having to think about how that might be really useful for your teams and the people and the teams you support. Following on from that, one last platform I wanted to share with you, and I think John will probably like this one the most, is Miro.com. Now, this is where we go, loving the stationery, absolutely love Post-it notes in the physical world. This is where we make the Post-it notes digital. So if we aren't in a physical location together where we can stick Post-it notes on a wall and move around and move the Post-it notes around as we go, this is the virtual version of that. You can have multiple team members collaborating virtually. You can have and color code your board. You can see with this example here, we've got some different themes. We've got the ability to stick virtual Post-it notes on. You've also got the ability to comment on other people's Post-it notes as well. You can use this while you're having virtual conference calls. So things like Zoom, you can share the link, you can share so everyone can see and engage with the platform themselves. It's really nice. The free version, again, has limitations on the number of boards and the number of these setups you can have. But if you're using it on a regular basis, it's definitely worth having a look at the pro paid version. So those are some of the kind of more creative ways of doing things, but still has got that overarching remote teams feel to it. You could really see, rather than being ground a wall of Post-it notes in a physical world, you could definitely see having a meeting for a brainstorming session using little Post-it notes as you go in a virtual world. You can change the colours. I know I'm a big fan of colours. I hope you are too. So you can change that, you can annotate, and you can notice other people saying, this is where I am, and that's the comment that I'm making. You could put names to it as well. You can also do the anonymous option if you want to, but names are normally used in that team situation. So to finish off, I wanted to answer the question that I regularly get is, Liz, what are your top productivity apps at the moment? So as well as Asana, which I mentioned before as one of those 3 project management apps, I wanted to just share with you still my top apps. So I have been using these since 2020 and a little bit earlier in 2019 as well. Evernote is still my app of choice for note taking. I found it really useful in terms of the handwriting to digital as well. I found that really helpful. So that's OCR, where it can take your handwriting into digital text format. If you've got a clear enough handwriting, that works actually really well. So I use Evernote quite a lot for that. I've also digitized all my business paperwork recently as well, and everything has gone into Evernote and syncs with the cloud. I'm still on the free version at the moment, but if you want it on more than 3 devices and you want offline management, then that would be the pro version for you. Habitable is where I track all my habits. I'm starting to do little bits of activities every day and trying to really move forwards on some projects. So saying I'll give myself a 25-minute time slot every day to work on X, I will track that with my Habitable. You can track numbers, you can track yes and no answers as well. Still, my top 2 favorite productivity tasks apps to get stuff done is Done app, which is the Pomodoro method. We have loads more stuff of that on our e-learning platform. But concept being 25-minute blocks of time and then 5-minute block of rest. I have been working with some PAs locally in the Northwest recently, where actually they've used the Pomodoro process and they've made it their own. So actually what they do now is they do 50 minutes time of a block of work, and then they do 10 minutes rest. So they've chosen that actually the timing works better for them that way. The great thing about the Pomodoro app is you can edit the timings and get it to work for you that way. And then my final top tip to share with you, my task lists, going back to the color codedness of everything. This app, Todoist, works with and synchronizes with all the calendar apps, which is great. So you can have a calendar go into view so that you can see all your tasks. If you assign a task a date and a time, it will pop up in your Google Calendar or one of the calendar apps we've mentioned in this session already, and color coding and sub tasks as well. Task management again is another topic for another day. But hopefully that's been really helpful for you. If you want to find out any more about our e-learning modules that we have, go to elearning.digienable.co.uk. If you've got any questions, please do contact us through the website. I'm more than happy to answer any further questions that you might have. And then also you can check out the links and the notes from this session on www.digienable.co.uk/PAH, so PA Hub. My top social media platforms to contact me on are Twitter and LinkedIn. So please feel free to connect with me on there. Ask me any questions that you might have. And then if you ever have any need for any digital training or online or remote training, things like Zoom, things like MS Teams, please do bear us in mind. I hope that's been really helpful for you today. Be it you're relatively new to digital remote working, or you're an existing digital convert and it's hopefully giving you some little tips along the way. Thanks very much for listening. Thanks to PA Hub, Marion and John for inviting me. Any questions, as always, give us an email, info@digienable.co.uk, and I'd be more than happy to help you along the way. And I hope to see you either virtually or in person again soon.
Oh, Liz, that's brilliant. That's really good. Digital mind mapping with post-its. I love it. And PAs will love that because we're always using post-its and we can't share them at the moment physically. So we've got a digital alternative. Yay.
Definitely. And I think, there's loads of other digital creative platforms that are out there, being able to, rather than just make a list of things, actually move things around the screen. If you're not quite ready to kind of form it into something more of a plan, just at that idea stage, digital post-its are the future, I think.
Definitely. Like it.
And as for me, I'll never look at a calendar the same again.
Brilliant. We got you sorted on your inbox, John. So calendars is the next step. It's just inevitable.
Great. And while we've got you, Liz, can we ask you, I know things are very different at the moment, but As for the future, have you got any plans coming up for 2021? Anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. We're definitely going to drive the digital productivity theme of our training forward. A lot of teams and organisations now working either remotely or hybrid situations are definitely looking at digital in a different light now. And we also have lots more e-modules in our e-learning platform as well. So yeah, that's growing month on month. So lots of different topics within that, so you can kind of learn at your own pace as well. So that's something that we're going to focus on growing this year as well.
Brilliant. We will have to everyone who's watching, all Lizzie's details are in the members area. You can find out all about her other courses, and you can watch this one again, because I'm sure that I'm going to be watching it back just to make sure I get it right. So thanks once again, Liz. Brilliant topic and brilliant tips and tricks.
Yeah, and we hope to see you in person very soon.
Definitely, that's what we want. Liz will be speaking at our conference, and we look forward to that. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Liz.
Thanks.
Great seeing you.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.